You're listening to Media Monitor's Conversations That Can, a special series that we're dropping just this summer. Thanks for tuning in to Media Monitor's Conversations That Can. You're about to hear our Chief Product Officer, Steve Silvers, interview Drew Kane from Prisma.
Hey guys, welcome to Media Monitor from Can. I'm Steve Silvers, the Chief Product Officer at Guideline, and with me today is Drew Kane from Prisma. Drew, tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing over at Prisma.
We're doing a lot of things at Prisma. We're doing a lot of things at Mediaocean. I'll make a quick, if folks don't know who we are, many do, but from a Prisma standpoint, Prisma, think of us as for media system of record, financial, contractual, workflow, plan to pay. Plan gets interesting, but $200 billion in media spend annually. Second piece of us is Innovid. Think of that as creative workflow and optimization. And Protected, which is all about trust, viewability and verification. So together, we are really servicing the advertising and media industry in all capacities. From the Prisma side, hugely exciting things going on. Of course, AI is going on. No, that we'd have to set up by default. We are hugely focused on the value we bring to our customers. I'm our Chief Product Officer for Prisma. I like to optionally insert Chief Value Customer because everything we try to do, we're delivering value. Value is around automation, workflow, convergence. Clearly, there is an AI and agentic component to what we're doing, and we're doing it on all levels and running on all cylinders.
Obviously, as a product guy, I love thinking about that Chief Value Officer. I like that.
Same CVO.
Yeah, we should. I'm gonna talk to my boss about that. So that, obviously, or maybe not so obviously, Guideline and Prisma have a very strong partnership. We just announced a new integration, that Prisma has with MediaTools, our media plan management software. Why don't you talk a little bit about what that integration is and why you think it's important?
Sure. I'm more than happy to. That integration, again, I mentioned that we're plan to pay. But planning workflow and a lot of that activity is happening inside of MediaTools or inside of Guideline. This is taking what over the years has been a semi-automated integration where there's manual steps to kind of, Steve, jump in where you feel like I'm doing you wrong or doing you not right. But it's really about saying, how can we make the use of APIs and a more direct communication between our platforms to enable at an objective level, at an actualization level, and really in between get to a place where we can better keep our systems in sync. What you do inside of MediaTools, for example, objectives for local and national, or even budgeting, that directly is, if I think of you as the planning, we're execution. So planning flowing into execution, that flowing in and tying a bow on it at the back end for actualization is huge. And to do it with immediacy, to do it with a level of automation that hasn't been there is where I really see, we'll use that word value, maybe about 15 more times, but that's real value. And it's coming for what folks have been asking for, which I also appreciate.
That's right. And obviously this data has been moving around between our systems for years, but it's been a manual process, which takes time and is error prone. And now we have an API integration that allows us to move the data back and forth. I like to use the word automagically. Not really a word, but it moves back and forth automatically and now has removed a whole bunch of friction so that people can focus more on getting the results out of their plan.
When we were doing our roadmap this past year, I went with this theme of, we said we will have an impactable roadmap. And an impactable roadmap it has to have impact for our customer or respective partners. It is practical, actually can act on it. So you've got, that piece actionable. And then we use magical. We said each one is contained inside of impactable. So we're on the same wavelength there.
Well, we're going to just keep making up words. Between the two of us, I love the product on product pods. It's so much more fun than some of the other ones. So look, obviously, we're here at Cannes and, this year, like the last couple of years, AI has been a huge topic and everyone is almost trying to out AI each other. But in some cases, AI is an overcomplication, right? And
sure.
In this particular case, we could have looked at an AI type of integration and MCP to MCP agentic connection between our platforms. But, in this case, it was just much simpler to do an API and we get that deterministic data flow and we keep it simple. Now, obviously on each end, there's going to be AI optimization and other things on both sides of the flow. But this one was simpler to keep. It's just an API.
100%. Well, the lens that we will look at this through is, first of all, AI, I've been saying for a while, it's always included. We're always included, right? It's in every conversation we have. When I look at it, it's the undercurrent of what we're looking at, but it is right application for the right technology. This still starts with a business outcome. Mm-hmm. When we talk about the business outcome that we're looking for, where it's really is truly a sharing and sharing of data that's going in two directions, like we can accomplish what we need to through that. So you don't have to throw an AI or MCP layer on top of it. I think that at the same time, what you can do with MCP, it's turning integrations into actions or outcomes. So certainly there is opportunity for that, as well as what you said, Steve, that if you have agents living on both sides of it, like have at it. But I would always start with what's the business outcome you're looking for? How is AI the tool for getting there? That gives me automation. That gives me optimization. That gives me some level of execution. That lets me take huge data sources and bring them together and associate them in ways that I could not. But it doesn't have to start with that. Not all automation is AI. And it's going to continue to be our credo. We're not going to do solution looking for problem. We're going to solve for the problems that are out there. One product works into another.
So when you take a look at the talk tracks that we have in CAN, AI is typically focused on creative, which obviously with Innovate, Mediaocean is involved with, but then also in this agentic buying sort of concept that the IAB Tech Lab and AdCP are putting out there. I'm just wondering how you guys are thinking about those technologies and how we could plug in together to those types of buying workflows.
Sure. To take it up a little bit, you can look at it individually. I'm going to create an agent. I'm going to create an agent. Really, when we've been looking at this through both an Innovate, but a Mediaocean lens, it's been very much around not individual agents, but orchestration of those agents. So we are investing in on both the Innovate and Prisma side on individual agents, but we're looking at it at a higher level. If you take an agent, which is saying, I'm directed towards this outcome and I'm directed towards this, having an orchestration layer that lives above that is more than it's a must have. And by layering that in, we have that. We also just announced Nevo, which is an intelligence layer that's living above it all. And that is really to inform intelligence, not just LLM or promptable, but really to be able to both have insights and actions. But it takes the shape of, okay, now I have this agent. And specific to Prisma, I knew it took a little while to get there, but specific to Prisma, we are really taking a very agnostic approach. So we have absolutely been working on Prisma Buying Agent. We have looked at it. The first lens is set simply about inventory and surfacing inventory. How can we do that in a way that's more fluid and more immediate than what you see today? So I'll use it in the context of Guideline. Guideline feeds us objectives. Those objectives are then turned into, well, this is my objective. This is what I'm looking for. That from a buying agent can go out to a seller agent with campaign details and other information that returns essentially, this is inventory that can satisfy what you need, which is, taking a process of I'm reaching out to my rep, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, shortening that whole process, providing more accuracy and immediacy with respect to when I said agnostic approach, whether it's AdCP, IAB, or simply MCP enabled APIs. We are not discriminant in that way. We want to work the way that publishers are looking to work. And we know that this is going to iterate over time. So we're not going down one direction. We are building initially to one, but that's just with the idea that this will expand out and we have to be open to it.
I think that makes sense. Like from our perspective, we are building our own agents. We're also looking at MCP server technologies, which we've rolled out for both MediaTools and Lumina that allow us to enable other people's agents. But one of the things that I think is kind of interesting is that, as we get this proliferation of agents and we get all this optimization, which is happening, in real time, at speed and at scale, the system of record sort of concept that both, Prisma and Guideline have been providing in the planning space for a while, I think it becomes more important, right? Because someone has to keep track of all the decisions that have been made and all the changes. And it feels like, variations, we're just getting way more variations now because of machine learning and now AI. So from my perspective, the idea that you have a set of truth to look at becomes more valuable in this world because someone has to keep track of it all and make sure it was all spent and paid for correctly.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I can take you on the road to say that to everybody because at the end of the day, that's absolutely right. We're talking about a couple of things are happening. First of all, when you employ agents or you're employing AI, there's always going to be the human element and the human touch. At what point is someone decisioning to say, yes, I am pressing the button to say, I approve what was done for me without me having to be as involved. And we know agents are working 24/7, but frankly, that workflow will work as fast as the person that can approve.
Right.
But when that's done 100% with scale of volume, the decisioning being made, the reason to have or the importance of the system of record is highlighted or increased tremendously. You need auditability. You need to account for every dollar spent. You need to account for measurement and outcomes. And I look at the way surfaces are going, but ultimately it's hitting your platform or our platform as a system of record and being able to see that. And ultimately when an agency or advertiser are looking to be sure that they got value for, I trusted you with X, I expected to see X, and all along the line, you can ascertain or you can be clear of what's happening in the supply chain. Huge importance. So we look at it as like we continue to be the road and we continue to be the guardrails on the road the whole way through. It's people, process, technology, and data.
Right.
Every one of those components is impacted in AI or agents in some way. And it's looking that ultimately, though, it comes back to a governed process.
Well, we talked about a lot of times this type of system of record stuff seems like less sexy than a lot of the AI.
It's sexy, right?
Yeah.
like, what do you mean less sexy?
But it's so important. And I feel like we're in a violent agreement that it's getting more important. And so I'm hoping, that we get a little more buzz about system of records next year at CAN. We could have a whole series of system of record podcasts.
Sure.
Everyone's going to be excited about that. It's system of record with Drew and Steve.
I might not go on the record with that, but I'm going to tell you that I don't know. For me, I actually scarily think that being able to tie things from beginning to end is actually very, very cool in the sense of when it comes down to what goes into that and what that looks like. Look, we're moving towards more. We're there, right? Video. If we were doing this 15 years ago, we're talking about linear TV. We're talking about digital video. They're living in these two boxes.
Talking into our dictaphones.
That's right. Not this fancy MC boom mic, whatever. But now when if I'm having a conversation, I'm not talking to a local linear buyer. I'm talking to someone that's in video investment, national video investment, local video investment, period. That is a huge flip on how we're looking at things and what it means for buying, what it means for process, and what it means for measurement.
Right. I think that we've seen those lines blur as the technology has increased, which makes sense, right? If people who are empowered to do more things, you've seen creative and media flow together more than it has in the past. But still, knowing what happened will always be important.
Well, and we're in an interesting place. We have an area where things have come more together and we've got a lot of fragmentation. Right. And if we can use technologies, whether it's, like I said, don't default to AI, but when we look at technologies that bring this together in a way that's cohesive. And in our integration, we talked a lot about efficiency, but a big focus of this is efficacy.
Right.
And how do we best capitalize on the investments being made? How do we make sure the dollars aren't going down the road and being thrown away because of extra investment of time or extra, just putting it where it shouldn't be. So it all ties back to ultimately the game hasn't changed in the sense of it's still, I have an outcome I'm trying to produce. I am spending or I'm putting a budget together to do that. How do we do that in a way that gets to that end goal, whether it be brand awareness, sales, go down the line. I could say more like we could start with, why do we have advertising?
What is this advertising you speak of, Drew?
Yes. Yep.
Anyway, Drew, thanks so much for coming on the pod. It's always great to hang out and here in France or elsewhere. And I hope to be hanging out with you sometime soon.
Yeah, no, I can hardly wait to get back together with you.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to also subscribe and listen to our Wednesday podcast, Media Monitor, where we go deep on trends, look into the data, and try to understand where the media market's going.